We're jumping right into some huge, fast-breaking news coming out of Venezuela. A U.S. military operation has led to the capture of President Nicolás Maduro. This is a special news bulletin, and things are moving quickly.
And that is the absolutely stunning declaration coming from the White House just hours after the operation wrapped up. It signals a direct U.S. hand in Venezuela's future, and we're only just starting to see how far that's going to go. So you've got to be asking, how did we even get here?
Okay, let's get into the details of this. The military codenamed the whole thing Operation Absolute Resolve. And from what we know, it was an incredibly swift and complex strike aimed right at the top of the Venezuelan government. Now, this didn't just happen out of the blue. This operation was really the final move after months of military escalation. It all started back in August with a naval buildup in the Caribbean. Then in September, we saw strikes on ships the U.S. claimed were trafficking drugs. By December, that ramped up to a full naval quarantine. All of it was basically setting the stage for what happened on January 3rd. And when they went in with overwhelming force. We are talking about more than 150 aircraft, everything from stealthy F-22 Raptors to B-1 bombers. The capture itself was reportedly carried out by the elite Delta Force. And at the same time, airstrikes hit key military sites all around Caracas to completely disable any possible Venezuelan defense. From the U.S. military's point of view, the operation was a success. They're only reporting 2 minor injuries. But that's not the whole story. On the ground in Venezuela, officials are reporting that at least 40 people were killed in the strikes, and that number includes both soldiers and civilians. So here's the crucial question. Why now? Well, the Trump administration is basically giving 2 main reasons for this dramatic action. One based on national security, and another one, well, it's about clear economic interests.
And what's so fascinating is how these two stories are being told at the same time. On one hand, the official line is that this was an operation against narcoterrorism, meant to bring an indicted leader to justice in the U.S. But on the other hand, there have been these very frank, very open statements about controlling Venezuela's oil, which, are the largest proven reserves on the planet. And this quote right here from President Trump really just says it all, doesn't it? It pretty clearly lays out the commercial interests that are all tangled up in this military operation, and that's a huge reason why the global reaction has been so intense. Okay, so with Maduro captured and out of the country, the million-dollar question is, who is actually in charge of Venezuela right now? Because it is definitely not a simple situation. And this is a really important point to understand. The U.S. operation was what you'd call a decapitation strike. It took out the leader, but it wasn't a full-scale regime change. The existing government structure is still there, and former Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has already stepped up to take the lead. And you can bet the new leadership isn't taking this sitting down. Their response has been pure defiance. In a televised speech, President Rodriguez called the capture a kidnapping and made it absolutely clear that she rejects any U.S. control over the country. But at the same time, you've got Venezuela's political opposition, and they see this as their chance. They're demanding that power be handed over to them, arguing that they were the real winners of that disputed 2024 election. So you've got this incredibly tense situation with 3 sides: the remaining Maduro government, the opposition, and now the U.S.
All right, let's zoom out and look at how the rest of the world is reacting to this. And no surprise here, the global community is completely and totally divided. Right away, major U.S. rivals like China and Russia came out swinging. They've unequivocally condemned the operation, calling it a blatant act of aggression and a serious violation of international law. But then you have a totally different reaction from some other countries in the region. Argentina's president, Javier Milei, was on social media celebrating it as a win for liberty, and we're hearing similar praise from leaders in Ecuador as well. But, for a lot of countries, especially America's traditional allies, the reaction was, well, it was complicated. This statement from the UK Prime Minister really captures it perfectly. Basically, no tears for Maduro, who they saw as illegitimate, but a whole lot of concern about the US just ignoring international law to do this. It's a very tricky position, and one shared by places like France and Germany. So what does this all mean for the future? That's really the bottom line here. We have to look at the consequences for international law, for the global oil markets, and of course, for the millions of people who call Venezuela home. So you might be wondering, legally, how can the U.S. even put Maduro on trial after capturing him like this? Well, legal experts are pointing to something called the Conversely doctrine. It's this controversial bit of American law that basically says it doesn't matter how you got the suspect into the courtroom, even if it was an abduction, the trial can still happen. It's the likely legal path they'll take. And what about the economy, specifically oil prices? You'd think this would send them through the roof, right? Well, not so fast. Experts are saying that because the global market has a surplus of oil right now, it can probably absorb this disruption. The real impact isn't on today's price. It's the massive amount of uncertainty and risk that's just been injected into the whole system for the long term.
And that really brings us to the big, final, unanswered question here. An action like this, forcibly removing a sitting head of state, is almost unheard of in modern times. The question that everyone is going to be grappling with for years to come is, was this a one-time thing? Or has a brand new and maybe dangerous precedent in how countries deal with each other just been set?